The moment Dr. Phil opened the envelope, a 20-year lie unraveled in front of 200 witnesses. His hands didn't shake, but the air in the studio turned thick, heavy, suffocating. The audience stopped breathing. The cameras kept rolling, and for the first time in 30 years of television, Dr. Phil McGraw had no script for what came next. The white envelope sat on his desk like a loaded weapon. Inside it, a truth that would shatter a family. Outside it, a mother, a father, and a daughter who had no idea their entire lives were about to change. This wasn't supposed to be that kind of episode, but Dr. Phil doesn't walk away from hard truths, even when they break people, especially when they break people. Because sometimes the only way to heal is to first destroy the lies holding everything together. What happened in that studio that day went beyond television. It went beyond ratings, beyond entertainment, beyond the carefully managed flow of daytime TV. It became a moment when real life collided with the cameras, and no one, not the producers, not the crew, not even Dr. Phil himself, knew how it would end. The envelope was supposed to bring closure. Instead, it brought devastation. And the story of how it got there, how a family arrived at that stage, starts 3 weeks earlier in a small town outside Denver when a phone call changed everything. Her name was Sarah Mitchell, 32 years old, a nurse, married, 2 kids. She'd never been on television, never wanted to be, but she'd been living with a question for most of her life. A nagging, persistent whisper in the back of her mind that wouldn't go away no matter how hard she tried to silence it. Why didn't she look like anyone in her family? Why did family photos feel like performances? Why, when she looked in the mirror, did she see a stranger's face? Her parents, Robert and Linda Mitchell, were good people, churchgoers, volunteers, the kind of couple everyone admired. But Sarah had learned early in life that good people can carry secrets too. And secrets, when buried deep enough, start to poison everything they touch. The call came on a Tuesday morning. Sarah had sent her DNA to one of those ancestry websites months ago, half out of curiosity, half out of that lifelong itch she couldn't scratch. She wasn't expecting much. Maybe some distant cousins, maybe confirmation that she was, in fact, related to the people who raised her. But what she got instead was a message from a woman named Angela Torres. "I think you might be my daughter." Angela Torres was 56 years old, living in Arizona. And according to the DNA match, there was a 99.9% probability that she was Sarah's biological mother. Sarah sat in her car in the hospital parking lot staring at the message, her hands trembling so badly she nearly dropped her phone. Her entire world tilted on its axis. If Angela Torres was her mother, then who were Robert and Linda Mitchell? And why had they spent 30 decades pretending otherwise? The studio lights were brighter than Sarah imagined. Hotter, too. She sat on the curved beige couch, her parents on one side, the empty space next to Dr. Phil on the other, waiting. The audience murmured softly, unaware of what was about to unfold. Dr. Phil walked onto the stage with that familiar, confident stride. But Sarah noticed something different in his eyes when he looked at her. Concern, maybe even sadness. He'd read the file. He knew what was in the envelope. "Sarah," Dr. Phil began, his voice calm but firm, "you came here today because you need answers. Your parents, Robert and Linda, they've agreed to be here to talk this through. But before we start, I want you to know something." He paused, his gaze moving between Sarah and her parents. "The truth, whatever it is going to be difficult for all of you. And my job isn't to make this easy. My job is to make sure we get to the truth. Are you ready for that?" Sarah nodded, her throat too tight to speak. Robert reached for Linda's hand. Dr. Phil sat down, leaning forward slightly, his body language open but serious. "Let's start with the question that brought you here. Sarah, you took a DNA test, and the results showed something that shook your entire world. Tell me what you found." Sarah's voice cracked as she spoke. "I found out that the woman who says she's my biological mother, she's not Linda. It's someone I've never met. Someone named Angela Torres." The audience gasped softly. Linda's face went pale. Robert stared at the floor. Dr. Phil didn't react, didn't flinch. He'd seen this before. Families built on secrets, lies that seemed small at first but grew into monsters. "Robert, Linda," Dr. Phil said, turning to them, "Sarah deserves to know the truth, and I think you both know that. So I'm going to ask you directly, is Angela Torres Sarah's biological mother?" The silence that followed was deafening. Linda's hands twisted in her lap. Robert's jaw clenched. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Robert spoke. "Yes." One word. That's all it took. The foundation Sarah had built her entire life uncrumbled. In an instant. Dr. Phil let the moment breathe, didn't rush it, didn't fill the silence with platitudes. He knew this was the kind of pain that needed space. Sarah's face crumbled. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "Why? Why didn't you tell me?" Linda finally looked up, her own eyes red and wet. "Because we were scared. Scared you'd hate us. Scared you'd leave us. Scared we'd lose you." Her voice broke. "We loved you so much, Sarah. From the moment we brought you home, you were ours. We didn't want to share you with anyone, not even the truth." Dr. Phil leaned back slightly, his expression unreadable. "Linda, I hear what you're saying, but love doesn't justify deception. And what you've done, what you've both done, is rob Sarah of her identity, of her history, of her right to know where she came from." His voice was steady but sharp. "You made a choice to protect yourselves, not her, and now she's paying the price for that choice." Subscribe and leave a comment, because the most powerful part of this story is still ahead. Robert stood up suddenly, his face red.
"We did what we thought was right. We gave her a good life. We gave her everything." Dr. Phil didn't move, didn't raise his voice. "Sit down, Robert." The command was quiet, but absolute. Robert sat. "I'm not questioning whether you love Sarah. I'm questioning whether you respected her enough to tell her the truth. And based on what I'm hearing, the answer is no." The envelope sat on Dr. Phil's desk, untouched. But everyone in the room could feel its presence. Dr. Phil had promised Sarah answers, and he delivered one. But there was another question, darker and more complicated, that still hung in the air. How did Sarah end up with Robert and Linda in the first place? And what role did Angela Torres play in all of this? Dr. Phil picked up the envelope, held it for a moment, then set it back down. "Before we go any further, there's someone who needs to be part of this conversation. Sarah, you've been in contact with Angela Torres. She knows you're here today, and she's asked to join us. Are you ready to meet her?" Sarah's breath caught. Her hands gripped the armrest of the couch so tightly her knuckles turned white. "She's here?" Dr. Phil nodded. "She's backstage, and if you're ready, I'd like to bring her out." The studio went completely silent. Even the crew seemed to freeze. Sarah looked at her parents, Robert and Linda, who both looked like they were about to be sick. Then she looked back at Dr. Phil and nodded. "Yes, I need to meet her." Dr. Phil stood, walked toward the side of the stage, and gestured off camera. "Angela, please come out." Angela Torres walked onto the stage slowly, almost hesitantly. She was a small woman, her dark hair streaked with gray, her eyes already brimming with tears. She looked at Sarah like she was seeing a ghost. Sarah stood up instinctively, her legs shaking. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. They just stared at each other. Two strangers, connected by blood and separated by decades of silence. Finally, Angela whispered, "You look just like your grandmother." Dr. Phil stepped back, letting the moment unfold naturally. Angela moved closer, and Sarah didn't stop her. "I never wanted to give you up," Angela said, her voice breaking. "I was 17. I had no money, no support, no options. They told me it was the best thing for you. They told me you'd have a better life, and I believed them. I signed the papers. I let you go, and I've regretted it every single day since." Sarah's tears came harder now, her whole body trembling. "Did you ever try to find me?" Angela nodded. "I tried, but the adoption was closed. They wouldn't tell me anything. I didn't even know your name until 3 weeks ago, when you messaged me." She took a shaky breath. "I thought I'd lost you forever. And then out of nowhere, you found me." Dr. Phil watched them carefully, then turned to Robert and Linda, who were still sitting on the couch, looking smaller than before. "Angela just told us this was a closed adoption, but that's not the whole story, is it, Robert?" Robert's face went gray. Dr. Phil's tone sharpened. "Because Angela didn't just give Sarah up for adoption through an agency. You were involved directly, weren't you?" The audience murmured. Angela turned toward Robert, her expression shifting from sadness to confusion. "What is he talking about?" Dr. Phil picked up the envelope again. "I had my team do some digging, and what we found is that this wasn't the legal adoption, not in the traditional sense. Robert, you worked as a hospital administrator 32 years ago. Angela gave birth at your hospital, and you facilitated a private arrangement that bypassed the legal adoption system."
"Isn't that right?" Robert didn't answer. Linda covered her face with her hands. Dr. Phil's voice grew colder. "You told Angela she was signing adoption papers, but what you actually did was manipulate a vulnerable teenage mother into handing over her child. You didn't go through the proper channels. You didn't ensure Angela had legal representation. You took advantage of her situation. And then you raised Sarah as your own, knowing full well that what you did was ethically, if not legally, wrong." The studio erupted. The audience gasped. Angela's face twisted in shock and anger. Sarah looked at her parents, Robert and Linda, with an expression that was beyond betrayal. It was devastation. Dr. Phil held up a hand, silencing the room. "Stop the tape." The cameras didn't stop, but the command had its effect. Everyone froze. Dr. Phil stood, walked over to Robert, and looked him directly in the eye. "You owe these women the truth. All of it. Right now." Robert's shoulders sagged. His voice came out small, broken. "We couldn't have children. We tried for years. We were desperate. When Angela came in alone, scared, I saw an opportunity. I convinced her that giving up her baby was the right thing to do. I made sure the paperwork was vague, and then we took Sarah home." Linda sobbed openly now. "We didn't think of it as stealing. We thought we were saving her, giving her a better life." Dr. Phil's expression was stone. "You were thinking about yourselves. Not Angela, not Sarah. Yourselves." He turned to Angela, who was staring at Robert like he was a monster. "Angela, I can't undo what was done to you, but I can tell you this. You were a victim, and you have every right to be angry." Angela's voice came out raw, furious. "You stole my daughter. You lied to me. You made me think I had no choice." She looked at Sarah, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry. I thought I was doing the right thing. I didn't know. I didn't know." Sarah moved toward Angela, and the two women embraced, holding each other tightly, crying together. A reunion 32 years in the making. Dr. Phil let them have the moment, then gently intervened. "Sarah, Angela, I know this is overwhelming, but I want you both to know that there are resources available to help you navigate this. Counseling, legal support, whatever you need. This isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning." He turned to Robert and Linda. "As for you two, you need to understand the damage you've caused, and you need to take responsibility for it, not just with words, with actions." The envelope still sat on Dr. Phil's desk, unopened. He picked it up one final time. "There's one more thing," he said, looking at Sarah. "When you took that DNA test, you didn't just find Angela. You found other family, too. Half-siblings, cousins, a whole branch of your family tree that you never knew existed. Angela brought something with her today. Letters, Photos, stories. Your history, Sarah, the one you were denied. He handed the envelope to Sarah. It's yours, whenever you're ready. Sarah took the envelope with shaking hands. She didn't open it, not yet. She just held it, feeling the weight of it, the years compressed into paper and ink. Angela reached for her hand, and Sarah let her take it. Two strangers, now mother and daughter, standing together in front of 200 people who had just witnessed something raw, real, and unscripted. Dr. Phil addressed the audience directly, his tone softer now. This family has a long road ahead. Healing doesn't happen in one episode. But today, the truth came out, and that's where healing begins. He looked at Sarah one last time. You deserve better. You deserve the truth, and now you have it. The cameras finally stopped rolling, but in that studio, something had shifted. A family broken by lies now had a chance to rebuild on truth. And Dr. Phil, standing in the middle of it all, had done what he does best. He didn't look away. Share and subscribe. Make sure this story is never forgotten. Share it out, and share for good.